The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, that didn't take long. I didn't even state the poll question, and it's up on our YouTube page as we speak. Who was the best performer of the spring game not at quarterback? Boo Carter with 33% of the vote. Mike Matthews with 67% of the vote. Already a shout out by Dylan on the message board. Chris Brazel, not a vote yet, but could at the wide receiver position. Jeremiah Thielander, don't be surprised if he gets one as well. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. Other poll questions throughout the day as well. And we've got some things to get into today that apparently we made Kentucky fans a little bit upset over the weekend. Is that something that we should be overly concerned about? Because Kentucky fans love their new coach, even though he's not John Calipari or Rick Pitino. Should we be a little bit easier on Kentucky fans?
No, let's have some fun with them. These guys their logic is absolutely hilarious. Guys, just for context, we made fun of their hire over the weekend and Mark Pope, and they came at us and said, well, y'all don't know anything. Rick Pitino says he's great because, as you guys know, great coaches, their assistants that they swear by always work out 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You know.
And listen, one coach saying something about another coach, let me just go ahead and tell you that there is an ulterior motive there. I don't care if they're best friends for the past 20 years. Portions of the program are brought to you by our good friends at Boundless Moving. Boundless Moving, from their 2-hour minimum, I should say, to turnkey operations, they've got you covered. Boundless Moving in East Tennessee, Boundless Moving in Charlotte, Boundless Moving. Yeah, you can't trust what any coach has to say about any other coach nowadays. Everybody has an ulterior motive, and the Bobby Bowdens of the world just aren't around that you can look at a guy and say, oh, he's an honest coach. We think some guys are honest coaches, but we don't know it. And if I had to go by history, I would lean towards probably not honest most of the time.
Yes, and what is a coach going to say about one of his former players getting a coaching job? And I don't think this former player should get a coaching job. He's just not that good.
He is all washed up. He's got nothing going on. It's not going to happen for him. Well, if I can, I want to switch gears for just a second here, because I do want to get to Tennessee's spring game. And obviously there was some special plays made at the quarterback position, but maybe not who you thought it would be. Let's talk some spring football right now. Orange and white game. Your thoughts, quarterback play. Today's tough question, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Pick a word to describe Tennessee's play at quarterback. I think we've all talked a lot about Nico Iamaleava and how he is going to be a star. So if you're listening to this program frequently, you probably think he's going to go out and throw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns and be incredible. But I could have told you Friday that's not going to be the case. And the reason wasn't going to be the case is, why would Josh Heupel do that and show off his prize commodity? So while we can get excited about what Jake Merklinger did, which I thought was solid, what Gaston Moore did, who knows, if the season started tomorrow, might be the second string quarterback in front of Merklinger. All that being said, I don't pull much from what Nico Iamaleava did on Saturday as far as his future success. You, Caleb?
No, particularly, I mean, people are going to talk about his stat line. He was 7 of 9, just to get that out of the way. 7 of 9 for 96 yards and a touchdown. But he did take 3 sacks. And on top of that, the touchdown he threw, I mean, it wasn't like the prettiest touchdown pass in the world. I mean, Mike Matthews had to adjust on it a little bit. We'll get to that later. But so it wasn't like he just like wowed you, but we know he's going to be a star. So that's totally fine. I think the standout for me is the fact that I think Tennessee wanted to see if they had, if they were in good shape at backup quarterback. And I think Jake Merklinger showed a lot of promise there, honestly. So, like, you guys can say Gaston Moore. Gaston Moore's not going to be the backup quarterback. I don't care what he does in the spring game. Jake Merklinger is going to be the backup quarterback.
It would take a perfect situation for Gaston Moore to be the backup quarterback, which essentially would be an injury right before the season. Is the only way I could possibly, and still you'd get Merklinger ready as quickly as you possibly could. So it would take something crazy to happen for Gaston Moore to get in there. Now, Gaston Moore has been with this offense an awful long time, going back to the UCF days. So that's got to help. I mean, he's going to be a coach one day. That's got to help as well. But were you surprised at all that Josh Heupel didn't put Nico on display, didn't do a little bit more with him? Because it's a spring game. You can absolutely do as much as what you want to do in a spring game. You can put up 500 passing yards. You can put up 40 passing yards. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think I wasn't really surprised because I don't think Josh Heupel likes to put on a show for the fans on spring games. I think he doesn't like the fact that they exist, if I'm just going to be honest with you. And so I think he, if anything, he would stick it to fans to try to bore them because he was upset about it. I mean, he tried to not have one there. He got away with not having one 2 years ago. I think he tried to not have one this year with the whole 10,000 Neyland Stadium construction stuff. And I think the SEC network was like, you guys got to have a spring game. But so I think that with that in mind, I think Josh Heupel really was not going to put anything on display with Nico because he was just not a fan of Nico having to show anything. And Josh Heupel doesn't want to show anything. Oh. You're not going to get any excitement from Heupel outside of the season.
Who do they play first month of the season? Chattanooga, NC State too?
Chattanooga, NC State, Oklahoma, and one other team.
Don't show them anything. Oklahoma doesn't need to know anything. You know what they need to be expecting? They need to be expecting the long screen by Joe Milton is what they need to be
exactly.
Expecting. Exactly what they need to be expecting. So don't show them anything. Hey, kudos. Listen, I believe that you believe, and we all believe that Nico can play. So why do you have to show a crowd of 10,000 and a national audience there that he is a pretty good football player? And he also is nice enough to mention his name every once in a while for those that have trouble pronouncing it. Thank you. Dylan says it's very iffy on D-line play when it's no contact on quarterbacks. A couple of them could have been sacks plus no shot. Merklinger makes that TD run without getting rocked if it were contact. That's very true. You have to take, when you're not having contact on quarterbacks, you have to take that into account. So if you're giving somebody an A+ for their play, you might want to downgrade that to an A because physical play is going to affect a quarterback and what he does in a game at some point.
True, but it also could, that's actually a case in Nico's favor because it also could help him because if it's no contact, he gets sacked. I think in a lot of those situations, Nico would take off. We saw that in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa where he wasn't scared to run. Now, I would say he probably ran too much against Iowa, but I think, Dave, that's because of the 4-2-5 defense that Iowa was running. They left those lanes wide open too often, so Nico had to take off quite a few times.
Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, the Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Caleb. You were going to say?
No, I was just going to say that I think I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt like the reason Nico ran more in this, he ran more in the Citrus Bowl than he's going to run typically because of Iowa's defensive schemes, didn't he? In the way they lined up.
Yeah, and they're just slow.
I mean, that's true.
It's nice too. I mean, when you line up and you say, I don't have to throw a pinpoint pass to beat these guys. I can just outrun them because they're slow. That's not bad. Quality Tire Pro. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online. QualityTirePros.com. Go in and say, Off the Hook Sports said, hey, Bo. Hey, Bo, it is time for 4 Downs, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
I want to ask you about the 4 guys who I think are getting the most pub right now as far as greatest, best performance. And let's keep this in mind a little bit with the fact that you are limiting Nico and what some of these other guys can do. And you've got some guys that are banged up that aren't even in the game. But as far as guys that we actually saw, what should people do, Coop, if people want to jump in the hot tub and talk some football?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Coop. What down?
Coop here. First down.
Mike Matthews. Sorry, I'm ahead of the curve again. I told you Mike Matthews was going to be really good, I think, about 3 months ago. Was I wrong?
You were not. Mike Matthews was epic, and it wasn't just the touchdown pass. The touchdown catch he got was very impressive. I mean, he had, again, that wasn't a great throw by Nico. He had to adjust on the route on the fly, and he did. And, I mean, he is fast. He is tall. I'm not trying to overreact, but it's possible you could see a number 1 receiver this year. And I know Brew McCoy is going to come back in the fall, but Mike Matthews might be the best receiver Nico's got this year. Just raw talent. He's amazing.
Mark says, do we look in the football portal for some depth in the backfield and offensive line? We are going to discuss that. First, Coop, what down?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Another guy that certainly showed up was Boo Carter. Been telling you that for about 3 months. I'm not trying to break my arm, patting myself on the back, but I feel like I've been pretty ahead of the curve on these guys. Boo Carter, if I said 6.5 games, he starts at strong safety, or he starts. Let's just say starts. Would you take the over or the under?
The over, easily. I think he's going to start the first week of the year at strong safety. So, and he played, I think what stood out to me about Boo Carter was he was able to play a little bit up on the line in this game. And, kind of, I'm not saying, as you know, Dave, because you covered it, how Monty Kiffin used Eric Berry. He used him as another linebacker, basically, because Eric Berry was just so physically gifted as a tackler. And you wondered about that with Boo Carter as an athlete playing safety. And he showed, I mean, he really can't, he's not afraid to hit.
Yeah. Dylan says it was good to see Matthews sticking his neck out and throwing blocks as a freshman. That is very true. Smoky Mountain Red said Matthews is a better Brew, and that is not a knock on Brew. I'm not hating that statement, and I'm about as high on Brew as anybody you're going to find in the Knoxville media. I'm not hating that statement. What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. Another standout performer, Jeremiah T-Lander. Your thoughts on Mr. T-Lander?
Yeah, he had a sack in the game. Tennessee, last year, they had to run him a good bit when T-Lander, because of Caleb, I can't even talk right now. Listen to myself. Keenan Peely's injury. They went from T-Lander to Elijah Moore, and, I mean, they were trying to figure things out. T-Lander showed a little more lateral quickness. I think he's going to finally provide depth that's needed at linebacker this year. The 2 main guys, let's be honest, are Peely and Arian Carter. They're going to be the stars in the fall. But T-Lander showed he could actually have some value, again, for depth, and that's a big deal. He had a sack. He had, I believe, 3 tackles in the game. So, yeah, I think T-Lander is that's a big deal. Tennessee needed depth, and he showed it.
He's a Mike, right? I don't think he could play Sam, could he?
No, I don't think so.
Mike.
He's going to play Mike, yeah.
All right. Before we get to 4th down, about Chris Brazel, who is going to be very, very good. I told you that one as well, I believe. I want to remind you that 4 Downs is brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports Kits, $500 off. Here, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, Because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Yes, sir. You are an all SEC center, Cooper. So the last one on our standout performers of the spring, 4 downs, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Chris Brazzell, wide receiver, the second. Thoughts on Brazzell?
Yes, Brazzell had he had 4 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown. I'm not reading too much into it. A lot of that was towards the end when they were kind of, having a little bit of fun, and that touchdown was Dave. I would have been concerned if he didn't score a touchdown on that play. I mean, that was the easiest catch in the world to make.
I agree with everything you said about the game, but they pranced him out there to the media. And a lot of times when they do that, they like the guy, and maybe the guy's in the right place at the right time. So if he hadn't have visited with the media, which Josh Heupel keeps close tabs on, I would have agreed with you. But I think they like something about him because he was out there talking to reporters.
That could definitely be possible, that maybe they want to tout him because they are high on him. But how many receivers are we going to see them run in the fall? I mean, we're talking Mike Matthews and Chris Brazzell already. Brew McCoy is coming back. I'm pretty sure Squirrel White has the slot position locked up, and Dante Thornton is also part of that rotation. I mean, guys, you can get excited, but I'm sorry, Tennessee's still only going to run 3 guys at receiver. That's Josh Heupel's philosophy. That's what he's going to do.
I'm going to take umbrage with that, my friend.
Really?
Yeah, I think that they're going to run more. I think that they're going to have more out there. I think that there's a good chance they do something similar to what they've done at tight ends the past couple of years, where they 2 platoon system, this sort of thing. I think they've got too much depth there, and they're too excited about the possibilities of what they could get done. I also don't think they like the fact that for the past 2 years, an injury threw their passing offense in the toilet for a bit. So I think they want to spread the ball around a little bit more. I think that's the goal from day one. We'll see. Could they stick with the 3 like they've done to this point? They certainly could, but I just think they've got too much to overlook.
I think, but see, Dave, part of this and a huge part of the success the quarterback and receiver have in Heupel's system is the chemistry, because the receiver has to break the right way on a route, and the quarterback has to anticipate that he's going to break that way. And otherwise, things can be a total disaster. And so I feel like if you run 6 guys, a part of doing that is being in sync and rhythm. You run 6 guys, you're not going to be in sync or in rhythm. So it's the tight ends.
See, I'm going to disagree with you there too. I don't think 6 people is that big of a number to get 6 people ready. I realize it's double the 3, right? So it's double the amount of work. I get you there. Yes. It's double the 3, but it's still just 6 dudes running routes. Can't they do that? I would think. And I think Brazzell will be one of the guys. And I think ultimately you're in a position where you can't control the boiling pot. Like you put the cover on it, but it's boiling too hot and heavy with wide receiver talent. And that some of that talent's going to boil out and over the pot if you try to cover it up. That's a terrible, terrible sports analogy. But did you see what I was trying to get there?
I get what you're trying to do, but sometimes you can be so loaded and you still go with the main guys. Dave, Alabama under Nick Saban's run had 5-star after 5-star after 5-star to their third or fourth string, and they still ran one or two receivers.
For what I just said, I might be loaded. TriStar, awful. TriStar Hats Co. Look at them right there. TriStar Hats Co. Use the promo code HOOK for free shipping. Promo code HOOK for free shipping. They are awesome. They've got apparel across the board. Don't forget the new spring styles as well. They are really fantastic. So certainly check them out with the one, the only Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We remind you that portion program are brought to you by our good friend T. Scott Jones at Banks & Jones. Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. I didn't even mention this name. What's wrong with me? I'm going to go ahead and tell you that another guy who's going to be really good is going to be Dante Thornton. You say, and Derek, I see what you said, and I respect your opinion. You've got a lot of good takes, but he's just going to be a big play guy. I don't think that's the case. I think he's all around skilled player put in the wrong position last year by Josh Heupel. I think Dante Thornton, I've said it before, is your comeback player of the year in 2024, and I'm going to stand by that.
Even though he didn't stand out in the spring game?
I don't even know what that spring game is. I think you and I could run around.
It's so important, Dave.
It's not. But what is important is that you realize you can get that BetUS bonus, 125% bonus 3 times on your first 3 deposits plus 10% gambler's insurance.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Hesitate to ask this question, but I'm going to. Spring game concerns, what do you have? Because let's realize this is a shell of a team that the head coach wants to show a shell of. So he wants this team to look as bad as it possibly can. So we've got to be really careful when we start to nitpick it. I think you would agree with that. But what are some concerns? Where does this team need to get better? I would definitely say at running back is where I would start. Brought to you by Don Self. Customer service still matters. For 40 years, they have built their business on taking care of their customers in the greater Chattanooga area. Call 423-396-2126, 423-396-2126, donself.net, donself.net. Running back, Peyton Lewis, is that the answer?
That's the one who needs to get in the most. Yes, they missed him. Obviously, they are ready for him in the fall. Running back. Yeah, in the summer, in the summer. It was very clear the running backs were an issue. Now, obviously, Dylan Sampson didn't play, and Cam Selton didn't play. So they went with Khalifa Keith and Deshaun Bishop. Khalifa Keith was in a role that he's not meant for. He's not meant to be an every down back. He's meant to be, it's 3rd and 1 and you need a first down, hand on the ball. And so I think that they are going to, yes, the running back play was very concerning, but I think it was concerning throughout spring practice. I don't think they have answers there. Because I'm just going to tell you guys, Dylan Sampson is their all-purpose back. Cam Selton is not the every down back. Cam Selton cannot be the every down back. He just can't. And he didn't play in the spring game, and you saw there's nobody behind him right now.
No, I tend to agree with you. Let's take a look at the poll question. It's on Twitter. I encourage people to check that out. Where do we stand on that?
So who was the standout player of the spring game not at quarterback? 47% Mike Matthews, 19% Boo Carter, 17% for Chris Brazel and Jeremiah Telander both. Telander.
Interesting. Okay, so let's flip sides on this, as that was obviously who were the standout of the spring. The concern of the spring is not, to me, running back. It's also not any other position other than a position that starts with second string offensive blank, it's second string offensive line. And
Yeah, the entire line.
yeah, I mean, you've got to have some depth there. I mean, there's not any depth there. I'm sure they went completely vanilla with Cooper Mays out with an injury. That offensive line, if they're 100% healthy, I will bet on them right now to be one of the top 3 offensive lines in the SEC this season. If they are not, and they suffer 2 injuries, they might be one of the 3rd worst in the SEC. Brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2 T's, hemphousechat2ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. Promo code HOOK for 10% off. I don't want to sound like I'm ripping on your selection of the running backs, but I feel like this running game is stalled, and they got to get a car that can go moving first. So whether or not Peyton Lewis is the answer or Cam Selden ends up being an answer, I'm not even to the point where I'm really concerned about a running back being able to do other things as far as pass pro. Listen, they can find a running back that can go out there and do some things, but a guy that turns a 2-yard gain into a 5, a 6 into a 12, a 12 into a 24, those guys are invaluable. They really are. And they're too de-emphasized nowadays in our football world, Caleb, but they're big.
They are, but and you're right about the offensive line. I'm actually on your side, because to be able to turn a 2-yard gain into a 6-yard gain, you have to have the 2-yard gain there for you.
And lean and push.
Yes. And so isn't it really amazing that 4 years in, Tennessee hasn't found a center behind Cooper Mays?
I think they have advice and Lang. I'm not saying he's ready to play though.
Right. No, but that's the problem. How long do you have to be in the program before you're not ready to play?
Yeah. So if Cooper wasn't ready at the beginning of the year for whatever reason, is Bison ready? I would say probably not. Joe Newbert Collision Center, for over 50 years, Newbert Collision Center has Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNewbertCollision.com, JoeNewbertCollision.com. How many offensive linemen do you feel like this coaching staff has missed out on, Caleb?
I mean, you had Addison Nichols who hit the portal. We're talking.
We're not talking about players that they've developed. We're talking about players that have hit the portal.
Yeah. Well, there's players that are still on the team that I think they've missed on, to be honest with you. And I think that's where I'm kind of at with it, because well, I don't think Pruitt was that high on Neville either. I just think he was overrated as a recruit. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be harsh, but Andre Carrick, obviously, I still think they missed on him. They, I went at Dante Thornton, but Andre Carrick probably, if you want to debate who stole more NIL money last year, Carrick probably stole the most money. But Brian Grant, they haven't been able to develop the way they want to. Masai Reddick, these are all recruits that signed with this coaching staff. Now they did have some new freshmen come in, so there's a little more depth. There's more competition this year, but yeah, and you're right. You're waiting on Vice and Lang to emerge, but maybe the freshmen, William Satterwhite, Max Anderson, could one of them emerge early? Particularly Max Anderson, a Texas kid. I talk all the time. Texas kids can be overrated, but they're usually ready to go early. So maybe Max Anderson could get into the rotation. I don't even think they have a full starting 5, because they still don't have a left guard. I mean, that's just a fact. They don't have a left guard.
Carrick's doable.
Like I said, they don't have a left guard.
I mean, you definitely may be right. All right. Here's the page for our Hooker's Corner. I'm going to go ahead and put that right on our message board. We'd love for you to join. And as a matter of fact, later today, because we forgot on Friday, we're going to draw our weekly gift, which is going to be this awesome, check it out, TriStar cap, which we're going to be giving away. So all you have to do is be a part of Hooker's Corner. If you just like our daily updates, you can be a free member. But to win prizes, $9.98. That includes a monthly grand prize that was an autographed Brew McCoy helmet last month. So pretty strong. We want to thank our friends at Sports Treasures, there who make it all possible. Sports Treasures is absolutely phenomenal, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, Sports Treasures TN, Sports Treasures TN. Coming up on the program, should the Vols go after some players in the transfer portal and why they should be very, very, very worried? In other words, will they lose a Byron Young-esque type of player? Or no, I'm sorry, a Tyler Barron type of player. Excuse me, I misspoke there. That type of player. Caleb, a starter, but not a star. Should they be concerned about that? We'll discuss right after this. I'm telling you, there's one school in particular in the South that's coming after your Vols. Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you exactly who it is. Off the Hook Sports.
Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, so you got the line in there, the URL, as the techies like to call it. So you can join our Hooker's Corner. You, too, can be a John. Congratulations to David Leverton, who won our Celebrity Bracket Challenge, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Yes, former punter David Leverton was in the Celebrity Challenge and took it down like he took down whoever that punt returner was, Mr. What's-his-name. He wasn't even that good, and that's exactly what David Leverton did to him. He was pretty good, actually. You know
David Leverton was actually the player that David Leverton took out.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. You talk about overrated college players, and that's true because he didn't end up making it in the NFL. So he didn't show out.
Referring to, for those that don't know, by the way,
Peter Warwick.
And Peter Warwick. Okay.
So, by the way, that it was funny because all the talk was Peter Warwick leading up to that game, and Peerless Price was the star in that game. And guess who had the better NFL career?
Yep. Who was the best performer in the spring game? Not at quarterback. Boo Carter, 18% of the vote. Jeremiah T-Lander, 20% of the vote. Mike Matthews, 47% of the vote. Chris Braswell gets 16% of the vote. Excuse me. And I want to remind you that you can take part again in our Hooker's Corner Patreon page. free for daily updates. For $9.98, you can win great prizes. We're going to give one of those as well away right now, I should say. Easy for me to say, as one of those prizes are going to go right now because we meant to do this on Friday. Let's spin this thing. And our big winner, can you see it, Caleb?
You got to pull it up.
It's up. Don't you see it?
I see it now.
Merle's our big winner. Congratulations to Merle. Congratulations. We certainly appreciate that, Merle. And Tennessee with the transfer portal. Things opening up on Tuesday. What's your biggest concern right now with the transfer portal? What Tennessee might or might not do, or what Tennessee might have done to them, Caleb?
I think it's more what Tennessee might or might not do. I don't think Tennessee is going to get – if Tennessee gets poached, it's not with anybody significant. I think they've actually done a pretty good job from an NIL perspective of keeping the players they care about the most. But if they don't get certain players at certain positions, they're in some trouble. I mean, they desperately need a running back. They desperately need a couple of offensive linemen. And if they don't get those, there could be issues in the fall. They're an injury away from a bust of a season, given all the hype behind this team right now.
I agree with that. I'm not going to argue with that at all. But I think Tennessee has some bigger concerns as well. And it's not going out and getting guys. It's just standing pat. I think you're going to see Alabama go out with a newfound focus of how to recruit without Nick Saban. Don't be surprised if Alabama tries to make a run at some guys around the country. But Alabama cannot get any of Tennessee's players because it's the spring transfer period. So who should you be worried about? Be worried about Miami. Keep an eye out for Miami. A couple of others that could dip into the SEC would be Washington. Why? Because they lost like 21 of 22 starters, I believe, with the Kalen DeBoer coaching change. So defensive tackle is going to be one that teams are going to be going for, surprisingly. You don't have a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be in demand this upcoming fall, but defensive tackle is clearly what Tennessee is best at. And can they afford to keep 6 defensive tackles, which they have now, because that's the position that most people want to land in this transfer portal, according to our friends at CBS Sports.
Well, have they has Tennessee really lost anybody that they really, really wanted to keep in December?
Well, let me ask you that. So can we call Tyler Barron a good middle of the road player, a good starter? You're not turning him down at any point in the recruiting process or as a freshman, sophomore, or junior. But if he wants to go, you're not losing sleep that night. You don't have to kill a bottle of Maker's Mark to hit the hay, okay? Can we consider him that type of guy? Is that fair?
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. By the way, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't consider him that. I considered him much better, but then I heard about all the disagreements and fights he had with Rodney Garner, which leads me to believe you're not going to lose sleep.
I do. So he's a good, hey, you want to stay, you want to go, let us know by 5 o'clock, okay? I mean, that's that type of guy. Do you think Tennessee will lose that type of player in this transfer portal, which would be a significant player, but not a huge player? So I'm kind of putting the over-under on a C plus B minus player. I think Tennessee will lose something more significant than that, less significant, about the same, or nothing.
I think they could lose somebody as significant as that. We could be looking at a defensive lineman gone because of that. Here's where Tennessee would freak out.
Defensive tackle's scary to me.
I wouldn't freak out over losing a defensive tackle. I would freak out over losing the offensive version of Tyler Barron. And I don't mean attitude, because I think he is a hard worker and I think he likes being at Tennessee. But in terms of talent, the offensive version is John Campbell Jr. And you can maybe see him poached. And then you would have to go all out to keep him because you, like we just talked about, you don't have a lot of depth on the offensive line. So if you lose a John Campbell, if you lose one of the good offensive linemen you have, you're in big trouble.
That'd be tough. Big trouble is maybe being a little bit too nice. Ray Varner Ford, local you can trust, innovation you can afford. Go to rayvarnerford.com, rayvarnerford.com. And I don't think that Tennessee is going to lose anybody, let's say, of that Barron, Elk, or better. However, I would like for someone to explain to me for just a second why the SEC has a rule that makes it more difficult to field a successful football team, because that's exactly what they have with this spring portal rule, that they can't transfer from SEC to SEC school. Well, that sounds great and like you're protecting your own, but in reality, you're just opening up the gates so the wolves can come in and feast on the sheep, because that's what's going to happen with schools like Miami, Michigan, and Washington. Watch and see.
That's a great point. And also Ohio State, because I don't know if you guys saw this the other day. Ohio State is opening the checkbook to win a national title this year. They're doing everything possible to the point to where I don't know how you are. I'm pretty convinced if they don't, they're going to fire Ryan Day. If they don't win it all this year.
It feels like this is pushing all of your chips in the middle of the table for Ryan Day.
It does.
This is it. You're in or you're out.
Yep. That's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they've and so they're going to start poaching the SEC. And you're right. If you tell them they can't transfer to other SEC schools, you're just really inflating the Big Ten at a time. It's funny you bring this up when the SEC and the Big Ten are about to be in some bidding wars for some ACC schools.
Yeah, they are. Caleb, let me ask you this too. If the SEC is being altruistic, which is you should be able to hold together your roster in these spring portal periods, that's why other SEC teams can't come poach your guys, then why isn't the rule across the board and you can't go get guys from the Big Ten and other conferences? Have you thought about that?
That is a good question. Why isn't it across the board? Like, what do you think it is?
I think this was one of Nick Saban's last volleys out the door. He said it's unfair to come after other players in the spring. And I may help you do this thing that you need me to help you do, working with the SEC and helping make change in NIL. You want me to speak in front of Congress, but I want this taken care of. And that is, you can't transfer from SEC school to SEC school in the spring. He did it at some point. I believe that came straight from his mouth in some shape, form, or fashion.
I could see that. Nick Saban wielded a lot of power, largely with coaches. It was kind of, you know what he was? You ever follow politics? You know, the party has each party has their whip, the person responsible for getting you votes to get a bill passed.
Or as I like to call him, the Devo.
Don't even know what that means.
Devo, crack that whip. Down.
So, yeah, you have the whip who's responsible for getting the votes, whipping up the votes, gathering the votes. And basically the deal is like they have the most power in Congress because they're like, give me what I want or I'm not going to get you the votes. Nick Saban is basically what you're saying, the whip of the SEC. He's like, you give me what I want and I'll give you the coaches' votes for this or that or this or that.
Yeah, which is why I still say to this day, I don't even care if it's Nick Saban or somebody as great as him. When they say they don't want to be a part of your organization any longer, you don't find a role for them. You say, thanks, appreciate what you did, been really special. But are you telling me that Nick Saban's going to hang around and he's going to have Alabama or the SEC's best interest at heart instead of his own? That's asking a lot of any man.
I think he's going to have college football's best interest at heart. I do. I think Nick Saban. I mean, what else? What does Nick Saban have to do anymore? Like, what is he trying to do for himself? I think he is looking altruistically at college football. Maybe he thinks the SEC can set an example by doing this. But it will hurt Tennessee. And honestly, the funny part is it's really going to hurt Alabama. I think Kalen DeBoer probably wanted Alabama's spring game to kind of sell it. Oh, we're going to keep this thing going. It is funny you bring up Miami because, okay, just sidebar, this is where sports discourse gets so stupid, Dave.
You go online, Miami, they genuinely think because Cam Ward had a good stat line in the spring game, that's going to encourage Miami. That's going to entice a lot of transfer players to go to Miami.
I should do it. That should be yeah. So welcome. We own you, South Florida. Here we go.
Yes.
I got a can. Good to go, boy.
Our quarterback played so good in the spring game. Now everybody's going to want to play for him. Like that really happens.
Meanwhile, Jaden Rashada had to buy a ticket. In 2 minutes, we will visit with you about Tennessee's basketball transfer portal targets. They got to get after some of these guys. I like me some Igor. Also, Alabama football or Kentucky basketball. Who is going to hit the bottom of the barrel first? Couldn't happen at nicer couple of programs. 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
In its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Welcome to Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates cutting-edge innovation. Elevate your journey with our pre-owned selection of quality vehicles. 2021 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Who?
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Hey, do me a favor. Hit that like button. We haven't had enough of you do that today, and I would really appreciate it. Helps bring more people into the channel. So take just 1 second, hit that like button. Thank you. If you haven't subscribed, do that. If you haven't turned on your notifications, do that. Leave us a review. Please do that. We greatly appreciate it. I'm done telling you things to do. That's very rude of me. What I'm going to do is instead provide you with a little bit of insight as the Vols absolutely lost a ton in the transfer portal when it comes to basketball. What the H? How do they replace basically half a team from last year's Elite Eight crew?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Okay, we got three cats that Tennessee is going to keep a close eye on in basketball transfer portal time. But first, if you can give me a background, who all have they lost? And who do you think was the most significant? I would probably go Awaka, but you might be able to change my mind.
I would go Adu, but given why he hit the portal, I think he was running. And if a player is going to run because he gets heat, you don't want him on your team anyway. But yeah, but
it's kind of where I was too.
Yeah, so Jonas Adu, Toby Awaka, Freddie DeLeon, and DJ Jefferson are the 4 that entered the portal. 3 made sense, 1 was running.
Igor Milicic Jr. Igor, what will he be able to do for his chosen college basketball team as he is making the rounds right now in the transfer portal world?
So Igor Milicic Jr. comes from Charlotte. He actually initially played for Virginia and transferred to Charlotte, and now he's transferring again. He averaged 12.8 points and 8.5 rebounds last year, over a block a game too, and also shot 81.8% from the free throw line. He's a big 6'10", 224. So he can definitely help Tennessee. Dave wants to play a little bit of inside-out basketball. And that's what Dave loves, guys. I don't know if you know. He's always go hard in the paint. And Igor Milicic Jr. could definitely help with that. Again, you wonder how they would do at the next level. But at 6'10", 224, shooting and having that level of finesse from the free throw line, if JP Estrella develops and Rick Barnes has his 2 bigs for next year, if they could get Igor.
Yep, and as far as we got some more transfer portal news as well, but
sorry, I meant to add, he also hits 2 threes a game, so he's really good from 30, so he can stretch the floor as a big.
Yeah, and according to Vol Scoops on Twitter and Tennessee Rivals recruiting writer Shane Pickering, the 6'10", 224-pound forward from Germany plans to visit UT like any day. It's worth noting that they haven't been confirmed yet. These reports haven't been confirmed. Regardless, it would be the 3rd portal visitor for the Hoops program within a week if Milicic does indeed visit after already reported duo of Hofstra's Darlinstone Dubar, who is 14th in the CBS portal rankings, and Belmont's Cade Tyson, who is 16th in the CBS portal rankings. So I know we've got some more guys we want to touch base on, but those guys that have just come through that I just mentioned, and I'll repeat the names for you again as my computer's gone insane. Let's go with Cade Tyson first, 16th overall before we get to Darlinstone Dubar.
Gotta love those Belmont kids, man. Cade Tyson comes from Belmont. Dave, he is 6'7", and he shoots 46.5% from 3. I mean, that's incredible. Also averages 6 rebounds a game. I'm just going to tell you guys, if they get Cade Tyson, he's their Dalton Connect for next year. They got the next.
I'm going to stop you right there. And you know I love you to death, but the bottom line is
that's crazy.
There's not going to be a Dalton Connect this year. There's going to be a group of guys who fill in that sort of productivity. There is not going to be one Dalton Connect guy this year.
We're disagreeing. It'll either be Cade Tyson or it'll be Darlinstone Dubar, who is 6'6", shoots right at 40% from 3, averages over 2 a game, and averaged 17.8 points this past year. These are the exact profiles of Dalton Connect. Okay? It's the same profile. They want to go, their experience, they want to develop and fine-tune a part of their game. They're wings who can score from anywhere on the floor, who are elite shooters, and they will embrace and buy into what Rick Barnes is doing. By the way, let's be honest, Dave. Given the profiles I just gave you, 6'6", 6'7", elite from 3, scorers, you know the success of Dalton Connect is why they're looking at Tennessee, right? That's why they're looking at Rick Barnes right now.
Well, sure, but let's be honest. I mean, how many Dalton Connects have there been over the past 5 years of college basketball, or since the transfer portal opened? I mean, it's not going to happen every year. There's not going to be an elite scorer go someplace and change a team's fortunes in the NCAA tournament, which is essentially what he did. They just didn't end up winning the Elite Eight.
I'm telling you, there's going to be more Dalton Connects in the future with a guy like Rick Barnes, an elite scorer who's been in college for 3 and 4 years, who just wants to fine-tune a part of his game, and he goes and transfers to Tennessee because of what Barnes did, and he buys into Rick Barnes' system, and he becomes a star. The reason one and dones never work in Rick Barnes' system is because, let's be honest, Dave, one and dones never really buy into any system, and they're not going to buy into Rick Barnes' system. So I think one of those guys would commit to Tennessee and be the next Dalton Connect.
Okay, here's the name. Kentucky freshman DJ Wagner, former 5-star recruit, McDonald's All-American entering the transfer portal, according to a source telling 24/7 Sports. 6'3" guard out of Camden, New Jersey, started in 28 games for the Wildcats, averaged almost 10, almost 2, almost over 3. So 9.9, 1.1 rebounds, 3.3 assists. And he is the son of former Memphis star DeJuan Wagner, who played for John Calipari with the Tigers. Despite Calipari's move to Arkansas, Wagner's options will be completely open upon hitting the portal market, and also plans to meet with new Kentucky head coach Mark Pope. You think there's a chance that Tennessee could get in on this? He was a 5-star guy, rated as the number 6 overall prospect in the 2023 class.
See, I don't think DJ Wagner is the type of player that Tennessee wants to get in on. I don't think he'd fully buy into what Rick Barnes is trying to do. I mean, I know he's not a one and done. He would be a sophomore this year, but still, Dave, freshmen or sophomores, they're both, the maturity level is so different for either of them than it is for a junior or a senior. And for Rick Barnes to plug one of those like 5-star young guys into his system, they never properly buy in. And so I think it would clash and create issues chemistry wise, very similar to, I believe it would have been back in 2000 when he was at Texas years ago. There was Miles Turner. This is what got Rick Barnes fired. He went to the second round of the NCAA tournament in 2014, returned everybody, and then added 5-star Miles Turner. So there, everybody's like, oh, he's got all this experience plus a new 5-star. He's got a top 5 team. Then he flamed out in the first round of the NCAA tournament because Miles Turner clashed with the rest of the team at Texas because the one and dones just don't work. I keep saying it. They don't work for Rick Barnes. They just don't. And the 2 and dones too. And so DJ Wagner would be 2 and done, but still.
What about Roddy Gale Jr.? What can you tell me about him? I don't think we mentioned him yet, have we?
No, most proven at the next level. He's another scorer, averages 13.5 points a game. He's 6'4", 205. He averages 4.5 rebounds, over 3 assists, which is pretty impressive for a combo guard. You know, the concern is he was 43% from 3 his freshman year. And this past year, he dropped to 28.4% from 3 and was 83% from the free throw line. But Dave, honestly, I think it was just bad luck. I think shots weren't falling. I think he's not going to be a 28%.
Wow, that's like a 15% bad luck drop off. It's a lot of bad luck.
I know, but he's so good from the free throw line. He's 83% from the free throw line. It just seemed like it was just a rando drop off for him. And he's a sophomore, so if he committed, I do think he would buy into what Rick Barnes does as a junior. So I think that, again, he's not as exciting as the 2 guys I named, Cade Tyson and the Hofstra kid, but I still think he's the most proven because he played at Ohio State. So I think he could actually work out.
Well, this is not going to get nearly the pub because of what Tennessee's lost and then what Tennessee did in the NCAA tournament recently. But how important is it for the Lady Vols to hit the ground running and get some momentum either in recruiting or in a transfer portal situation?
Oh, it's crucial. The whole goal for the Lady Vols is to win now. That's what they've been saying. They want to win immediately. Can't win immediately if you don't hit the portal. I mean, I agreed with John on this. If they want to make a splash early on the court, they can't do it with this roster, especially given the Kim Caldwell style of play. They just won't be able to do that. So I think that's I think that's going to be that. There's going to be some pressure on them in the next couple of weeks. That's the truth. But then again, Josh Heupel got wrecked in the portal and with a ton of talent and turnover when he took over Tennessee, and then went 7-6 his first year, which is still, that was a miracle working job that he went 7-6 in 2021. He should have been coach of the year for that.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I can't argue with any of that. Now, as far as the top 10 players in the 2024 women's college basketball transfer portal, do want to give you a couple of names real quick towards the top. You have the number 1 overall player is going to be Georgia Amore, grad transfer from Virginia Tech. She's going to Kentucky. And then you have Grace Van Slooten, who's a sophomore. She's from Oregon. Don't know where she's going yet. Tina Gardner is from Oregon State. Lucy Olson from Villanova. Talia Scott from Arkansas. So there's definitely some options out there, Caleb. We'll see what Tennessee's able to get done. under year number one. And let's don't forget, there's something to be said when you're a younger coach about hitting the ground running and blowing people away with your work ethic, whether that's perceived incredible work ethic or for real. There's something to be said for that. So getting one soon, I don't believe really in recruiting momentum until it's something like this. I think you could be stuck on zero and stuck on stagnant. They need to get off on stuck on zero pretty quick.
Yeah, I actually believe in recruiting momentum more than you do, because I do think that if a coach is nailing a couple of pickups, don't you think other recruits are seeing, oh, they're building something special, I want to go be a part of that? Yeah. And if players are hitting the portal, recruits will be like, I might need to steer clear of that for a while. And so I do think that is a thing. We'll have to see how it goes with Caldwell. She adds a player or two, the momentum will pick up. But I will tell you this. Luckily, they're not that online because they're old. Sorry. But the lady, there is a strong Lady Vol contingency in Knoxville that I'm realizing is very unhappy about this hire. I don't know if you're aware of that, Dave, but there is a group of fans. Again, they're old, so they're not online, so the recruits don't see it. But you can get the vibe when you're in Knoxville, right? The people
we actually got the vibe on our message board one time. It kind of cropped up and then went away. I don't think they want to go outside the Pat Summit family. Getting back to Rick Barnes, let's say he does lose all these players to the portal, and he could technically take them back, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And then he craps out on some of these prospects, and Tennessee's a 15 or 16 win team. You know, Rick Barnes has prided himself on building a program with a strong foundation, but that's almost impossible nowadays. Would he be on the hot seat because his one strength of having a strong foundation could be gone because of the transfer portal?
I'll tell you what will put him on the hot seat. It actually goes back to the women's basketball side. If Kim Caldwell were to have a really successful first year, I mean, like do something like make an Elite Eight run, or even like what if she does? What if she goes crazy and makes a Final Four, like as her first year as head coach of the Lady Vols? You could see Rick Barnes on the hot seat because Danny White would be so thoroughly confident in his hiring ability, as he already is, but it would go to another level. I'll give you an example. Mike Hamilton hired Bruce Pearl after firing Buzz Peterson, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, he controversially fired Rod Delmonico. Don't you think he made that move because he was so confident in what he could do because of how successful he was with Bruce Pearl?
I don't know if confidence is the right word, but ability to throw some weight around, and Rod Delmonico was incredibly tough to work with.
Yeah, but Rod Delmonico had a 17-year career, was kind of a titan in Tennessee athletics, and Mike Hamilton literally said, nope, you're gone. I'm going for this Todd Raleigh who did not work out. And then what did he do a little later? He had the guts to fire Fulmer. And you know this, Dave. There's a lot of athletic directors that maybe wouldn't have had the guts. Now, I will, from what I've learned from you, doesn't seem like the way Hamilton fired Fulmer was handled right, honestly. Like, it sounded like he was preparing to fire Fulmer for a month before he actually pulled the trigger. But I will say that I think the success of Bruce Pearl made Mike Hamilton a lot more confident in what he could do, and gave him a lot more leverage to do what he wanted to do.
I think it gave him a lot more leverage and a lot more confidence to change head football coaches, which compared to everything else that you do is minuscule. I mean, that changing the football coach is the big thing.
That's your legacy.
Yeah, I mean, at Tennessee, it doesn't matter what else you do. You win 15 men's basketball championships, and they'll say, what did he do at basketball? Speaking of two teams and two programs that view football and basketball very differently, you've got Alabama football and Kentucky basketball, who were the blue bloods of the conference of each individual sport, until suddenly Nick Saban said, I'm good, and John Calipari said, I'm going to Arkansas. Which fan base should be more concerned? Which program has the greatest danger to fall further? Caleb, Calhoun, I'll ask you that question.
Well, by default, Alabama's in danger of falling further. And here's why. They actually have a height to fall from. Kentucky has been nothing but mediocrity for the last 5 years anyway. What is Kentucky falling from? I mean, that's I know Kentucky fans are going to come at me. We have NBA draft picks from John Calipari. We won a title 12 years ago, and then give me the Adolph Rupp history or whatever. Kentucky hasn't fallen from anything. Y'all are a mediocre program right now in basketball, and you have been for a good 7 years now. honestly. And so just with that alone, I mean, Alabama's got 2 national championships more recent than Kentucky's last trip to the Sweet 16. Okay, so I think Alabama can fall a lot more because they actually have a height to fall from. Unlike Kentucky, that has not much to fall from right now because they've been so mediocre.
Okay, I see your point. But I think Alabama is only going to fall so far because they hired good football coaches. Maybe not great football coaches, but good football coaches. I don't know that Kentucky's hired a great basketball coach. I also have an issue with Kentucky's fans until the end of time. I think they're incredibly difficult on young coaches. Here's the other thing that Kentucky had, and you may have not liked John Calipari's 15-year run at Kentucky, but it had a championship, and it had a championship because its ties to Nike. So those are gone now. So that's reason number 18 that I think Alabama can actually fall further, or reason 18 that I think Kentucky can fall further than Alabama football. I just do not see Alabama going back to the Mike Price, Mike Shula days where they're that far down. They may be down, but I think Kentucky could be way down for a long, long time. And the big factor that it's a seed that was planted and could grow into an oak tree one day, Caleb, is timing. It took Tennessee 3 hires and a decade to overcome the Lane Kiffin timing. It might take the very same thing for John Calipari. It is that serious. I think they could fall off the map big time.
Yes.
And if I may say, Smoky Mountain Red, you were talking to somebody who is still skeptical about DeBoer working out at Alabama. I am that too, by the way, but I'm more skeptical about things working out at Kentucky basketball. Go.
And Kentucky, I mean, let's be honest, to Kentucky's credit, they move on very quick if their coach is going to fail. I mean, they saw Billy Gillispie was going to fail, and they said, we're done. We're not even giving him a chance to try to build this thing back up. They fired him after 2 years and called it a day. But that's an
2
example
years,
of how
2 DUIs, time to move on.
That's an example of how bad they can fall. Because, guys, and Kentucky fans, you can come at me for this all day, and I'm ready for you because your program, those players did not commit to your program. They committed to John Calipari.
Yes.
They committed to John Calipari.
And they committed, and here's the other thing they committed to, and Kentucky, they almost had this whole NIL thing figured out because they could commit to what? Shoe contracts.
Yes, they
could have committed to shoe contracts. And that's why John Calipari is going to go to Arkansas, and he is going to win because he's going to be not just giving away NIL money. He's going to be giving away $5 million a year shoe contracts.
Oh, no, that's a very good point. Now, he may not win a national title, but he will win at Arkansas. And that's
He'll be as elite. He'll be almost elite talent-wise at Arkansas as he was at Kentucky, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was. Again, right before he left Memphis, the reason Kentucky hired him in that moment was when the Nike AAU deal went into overdrive, and he went from, remember he used to just get one and done like a Derrick Rose or a Tyreek Evans, and then surround him with just regular. And then Memphis, his last year at Memphis, he had that whole one and done class, and Kentucky saw that, and they said, oh, he's going to start doing this repetitively. Let's go get him. And that Calipari is going to be able to do that. And here's the other point, Dave. Calipari is going to be able to have some of these kids stay for another year.
Yep.
Now, because of NIL.
Yep. And what's the worst case scenario for both of these programs? I'll tell you that after 60 seconds from Dynasty Pools and Spas. Here, you know, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals. Made right here in East Tennessee. Support local Dynasty Pools and Spas. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas. DynastyPoolsandSpas.com. Okay, here's the worst that can happen Kentucky basketball. Kentucky basketball can be a team that butts up right against 18 to 20 wins and is a bubble NCAA tournament team each and every year. The worst that can happen to Alabama football is, I believe, with the coaches they have, they can knock on the door of the college football playoff for the foreseeable future, as long as they can overcome their short-term losses because of the transfer portal. So, Caleb, again, that's why I wanted to illustrate my point that I think Kentucky basketball could be on the verge of a major, major collapse.
Yes. And part of that is because even though coaches are huge everywhere, I think basketball programs are more dependent on the coach than football programs. I think they're with NIL and boosters and money and region, location of region for recruiting. There are a lot of factors that make a football program that aren't always reflective of the head coach. I mean, that's why LSU could win a national title with Ed Orgeron. I make that joke all the time, but it's true. And it's why Miami could win one with Larry Coker. I think that basketball doesn't have that.
Oh, do me a favor if you don't mind. Let's we got a new poll question. Let's go ahead and put this up on the YouTube question. Hiring. Okay, so this is hiring John Calipari by Arkansas was more ingenious or idiotic. Can we put that up there? Are they getting a guy who is going out the door on his way out, is hoping that he can salvage some sort of one and done thing going on in Fayetteville instead of Lexington? Is that what he's hoping for? Or did they get a guy who's really going to change the way he does business and end up being a very successful coach, utilizing his contacts in another direction? I don't know that you can teach an old dog new tricks. He's 65. Your thoughts, Caleb?
Look,
idiotic or ingenious? Arkansas's hire of Rick Pitino, John Calipari was idiotic or ingenious? You got to pick one of the two.
Just those two, I would say ingenious, because Calipari is an easy hire. They were able to get him for less money than Kentucky. And here's the thing. Calipari is at a level where you're going to be successful. Like, you're going to be a perennial NCAA tournament team. Now, do you go win national titles? Probably not. But Arkansas has one national title in their history, and it was because
you bring up a really good point. How many SEC basketball programs make a hire, and you really don't have a good feel if they're going to be successful or not? A lot. Yes, exactly. And so Arkansas has a base. They're going to be successful. It was the same that's why Tennessee hired Rick Barnes. I mean, yes, he didn't have a national title, but he was always in the tournament. And I think the goal for Tennessee was, let's just maintain relevancy for a period of time, which, yes, maybe that's not the expectation for football, but it's better than what Doug Dickey was putting into the basketball program in the 90s. Which was nothing.
Yeah, nothing. So I think because of that, I think Arkansas knew. I think John Calipari is such a sure bet in terms of base level of success, even if it's an unsure bet in terms of what he could do, in terms of what his ceiling is, that I think John Calipari, weirdly, Dave, it was a safe hire. And you don't think that with John Calipari. It's not like a home run hire, but it is kind of a splash hire that was it was a splash safe hire. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but that's where I'm at with John Calipari. Now, again, we don't, and I will say this: we talk about NIL. Arkansas may have some deeper pockets in Kentucky in NIL, by the way, going forward. I don't know if you know.
Well, don't doubt that they do, because have you ever been to the Fayetteville area?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very close to where Walmart, their headquarters, is. It seems like every person you bump into makes like $150,000 a year there. So there is money to go around. That's not to say that they could overcome the recruiting shortcomings they had in football. They couldn't, and they won't be able to, because that's too much money.
Particularly with Texas A&M and Oklahoma and the SEC now. It's over.
Yeah, but you can get one dude, one 5-star guard, one Stacey Augmon, Augmon was for UNLV, right? The
Day was the big one. But yes, you're right. You can easily do that. And I mean, I'll just say it. They could get 3 and 4. And also with Jerry Jones's pockets, I mean, Jerry Jones may be giving up on your Cowboys, Dave, and trying to see Arkansas basketball win a national title.
Yes, that means they'll be awful and the Cowboys will be good. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the